The Peruvian Congress is preparing regulations to prevent large companies from paying taxes. According to some estimates, it is calculated that the state would stop collecting about $7 billion in taxes that could be used to benefit education and public health of the majority. Let's see more.
Peru
is one of the countries that collects the least taxes in Latin America. However, the Congress is preparing a series of measures to exempt large companies from paying taxes.
All these incentives and privileges that are being granted will affect even more the collection. It will be difficult for Peru to reduce its fiscal deficit. Next year, there will only be a temporary reduction. But from 2026, we will resume increasing deficit rates, and that will undoubtedly affect the credit risk rating that our country has.
The beneficiaries would be the agro-exporters, hotels, and restaurants, and according to the Ministry of Economy, it is estimated that in 10 years they would stop paying the state 26 billion soles, that is about $7 billion.
Cerca de 7,000 millones de dólares.
In Peru, more than 70% do not have property titles, and this does not allow small agriculture to develop, so this is also a shortcoming of the government and the regional governments that have to give them their property titles so that they can be subject to credit, and there are many issues that the state has abandoned this sector. There are many gaps to close. For example, the issue of communication, both the opening of roads, basic services. In the jungle and in the Andean zone, it suffers a lot, unlike the coast that has greater benefits because there is the agro-export.
In this context, the most discredited Congress in Peruvian history has quintupled its budget for 2025, increasing it from 282 million soles to 12 million soles, an approximate of $380 million.
De 380 millones de dólares.
¿Quiénes son los que se benefician? Son empresas, son el grupo.
Who are the ones who benefit? The companies, the Gloria Group, the Romero Group, and other economic groups who are the ones who benefit and have the land again. And the agrarian reform of the 1960s has simply ceased to exist in our country because the land is once again in the hands of a few and they are benefiting at the expense of the exploitation of the agricultural workers.
De la explotación que vienen haciendo los trabajadores agrícolas.
Peru
ends the year with a fiscal deficit of 4% of gross domestic product, failing for the second consecutive year to meet the fiscal target of 2.8% of GDP, spending more than it collects and giving tax advantages to those who have the most.
Certain sectors have been growing significantly, and instead of charging them more, they are being charged less. Therefore, a tax reform is key, and it is not about spending less, but about spending well and having more resources to spend as a country. The tax pressure in the country is very low, 14%. It has dropped 2 percentage points in the last 2 years and is below the Latin American standard, let alone the standard of the developed world, such as the OECD countries where the tax pressure is around 30% of GDP. We are below half of that.
Para los especialistas consultados,
for the specialists consulted, there is little hope that the government will comply with these norms in case they are approved, since the executive has been acting in complicity with the Congress in favor of the power groups and to the detriment of the great majorities.
Desde Lima para teleSUR, Ramiro Angulo.